here to talk about when it's your time to go higher and your brand holds you back. On the Impact Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak, check out these rich strategy nuggets that you can use right now. This is the Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak. Here we positively uplift possibilities for your brand with straight talk that you can trust. Does your brand need more clarity? Perhaps you're stuck at the starting gate of the next level of your brand. Bring your vision and your challenges right here to the Brand Doctor podcast. Today, we are lifting up the brand journey of Dr. Morton Orman, MD. Mort is a leading expert in stress and anger elimination. He's the creator of the ultimate system for eliminating stress. He has decades of clinical success helping people. He's the author of 23 books, including his seminal book in 1991, The 14-Day Stress Cure. And now he invests his time speaking to audiences who care about, get this, stress mastery as a foundation for life mastery. Dr. Orman is a proponent and a guide for winning at life. He spends time envisioning the future of life mastery education that enhances the lives of generations. And he is, no surprise, the visionary founder and director of clinical certification for the Orman Life Mastery Institute, powering your health, happiness, and success. Wow. What do you do in your spare time? Dr. Morton Orman, MD, I know, I love what you do. I love who you are. It's amazing. I know that many of our listeners, businesses, and their lives, frankly, will benefit from what they hear today on this show. So welcome, my friend. It is great to have you here.
Well, thank you, Rich. I'm happy to be here. You know, over my career, I've spoken to a lot of different doctors before, but I think this is the first time I've spoken to a brand doctor. So,
well, let's enjoy this.
It should be fun.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Here we go. Thank you. You are indeed a man prepared for this special time. You have invested decades being ready and able to clear about the value that you bring to individual lives and now to a broader world. Share with us in one of your specialty areas, make it eliminating anger. That just seems so challenging. Just how ready you really are to step up and powerfully help change lives. Give us a taste.
Well, there's certainly a whole lot of anger going around today and in these days, and a lot of people have problems with anger, and there's not a lot of really good help for it. I mean, there's anger management programs. Sometimes people go into therapy for years and still end up being angry. So I like to help people just stop being an angry person, get rid of their anger and learn how to do that. And that's something I learned how to do over 40 years ago with my own anger that I had when I was a younger physician. And I struggled with it. And eventually I was able to get to the other side. And the last 40 years, it's rare that I get angry over the last 40 years. And I've been able to teach that skill to other people. So I enjoy doing that. I love helping people win against anger, which many people struggle with for a long time. And a lot of people go to their graves and never win over their anger. And so I love helping people do that.
I remember in our initial conversation, you told me a story about a guy you met on a golf course. Could you give us that story real short? Because it's easy to remember.
Yeah, we moved to Florida a couple years ago, and I play golf, and I met this guy on the golf course, and we just played, and then didn't really have any contact with him. And then he and his wife bought an RV because their dream was to travel around Florida for their retirement years. And all of a sudden, one day he calls me that they went on their first trip, and he was just angry the whole time. And when they got back home, his wife said, "I'm never going on another RV trip with you again until you handle your anger problem." So he had been following me on Facebook. He knew what I did, and he called me up and we agreed to meet. And he told me the story about how he'd been angry all his life. Everybody in his family is angry. And we ended up working together. And in 10 sessions, he became a person who hardly gets angry anymore. He doesn't even get angry on the golf course anymore. I was able to teach him in 10 sessions the what I learned about anger, 40 years ago. And I've done that with many other people. And his wife is just thrilled with the new husband she has now. So that's just very satisfying to do that kind of
I,
work.
I love that story. Amazing. 10 sessions, no problem.
No problem.
What confidence. So when I look at you, I see a man. This is a compliment. Too filled with knowing and wisdom to retire. How's that? And indeed, you're doing the opposite. You're here having a conversation about branding to take your work to an entirely higher level. Mort, what have you learned in your work that inspires you to imbue all this experience as a physician and your vision as a life mastery educator into the world in this next phase of your life?
Yeah. Well, as a doctor, I practiced for 23 years, internal medicine. And people come in and they just tell you about what's going on in their life, in addition to their illnesses and things like that. But they tell you about their struggles and their stresses and their relationship issues and their difficulty dealing with them. So you just get to see all this stuff as a young doctor. And when I was in the early stages of my career, I really didn't know how to help people with that, but I wanted to. I would have loved to, because I knew how important it was. And then later on, when I developed these skills to help myself, I said, gosh, I can't just sit on these. I've got to share them with people, because it's a big contributor to health and illness. And if I'm really going to truly be a doctor and honor my oath, I have this knowledge, I can't sit on it. I've got to get it out into the world. And I've been trying to figure out ways to do that. And now that I'm retired, I have all this time where I now can devote myself fully to this for the rest of my life. That's my third career, actually, is helping people learn how to win in life.
Where'd that come from?
Where did it come from? I got, about hooked on phonics. You heard of hooked on phonics?
Sure.
Yeah, well, I got hooked on winning when I was like 10 years old.
Okay, go for it. You got me.
I was fortunate. I grew up in Baltimore around the time that Johnny Unitas was the quarterback of the Baltimore Colts.
Ooh.
And I watched him every Sunday, and he just was a winner. He was an out and out winner. And it just got transferred into me, into my core. And everything I've done in life as beyond when I was 10, I took that spirit, that winning spirit of his with me. I learned how to win in school, and be good academically. I learned how to win and get into medical school. I learned how to win and do well in medical school and become chief resident in my training program. And then even in practice, you have to be good as a physician. So I learned how to win the game of being a doctor. And then when all the stress stuff came along that I was able to develop several years into my practice, I love teaching people how to win against stress and win against anger and win in their relationships. And win in terms of self-discipline and having personal breakthroughs, and it's just winning.
You can't quit. You're too valuable. And thank you for not quitting. I would never expect you to. Oh my gosh. You said to me you quickly summarized matter-of-factly, Rich, when you look at it, really stress mastery is life mastery. It's one of those foundational things. And we don't teach life mastery well. And then you told me that you believe that we need education in life mastery, and I obviously you're a man of vision. So we'll check the vision part off. Let's get to the branding. What was challenging you when you thought about branding your vision, Mort?
Well, I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've been talking about stress and life mastery for over 40 years. And initially, what was keeping me kind of hemmed in was having a very narrow view of what my branding should be. So I was branding myself as a stress expert or an anger elimination expert. Mm-hmm. And I knew in my heart that I can do those things. I can help people with those things, but there's more. And that when I think about stress mastery, I'm really thinking in the larger scope of life mastery, because there's all kinds of challenges in life that can give us stress. And the better you can handle anything that comes your way, like COVID or some other unexpected thing, the more skill you have in mastering life, the less stress you'll have from those unexpected events and occurrences. So I've always known that it's been bigger, but my branding kind of kept it in the stress domain. And I was trying to figure out how to position myself so people would know that what I do is different than stress management, different than most stress experts. So that was always my struggle in branding, was to brand myself as a stress expert. And it didn't leave any room for me to brand myself as this in this bigger scope that I saw myself eventually also contributing into the world. This whole life mastery skill set different sets that I've developed over the years for myself first, and then to be able to share with other people.
Thank you for telling me that. You truly are a value to the world. So for those listening and you, I just want to do an echo check in a sentence. It was your time, and it is your time to go higher, but your brand was holding you back.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a term, pigeonhole. You heard me use it when you mentioned a title of a book you thought you were going to write. And I said to you, whoa, that might put you in a pigeonhole you might be tough to get out of. So I have a story about a client, David, that I'll share for your benefit and for the listeners' benefit. David came to me with 4 or more unique and different coaching programs he had created. Each had its own language, each had its own look and its own name. He even had logos, and they were different. And any one of them had pigeonhole power, that he would have been that guy or this coach. And he was struggling. Today, he has a brand entitled Your Time to Soar, elevating you on a higher path. And instead of people looking at his work saying, well, I don't understand how that and that go together, does that fit with that? They go, that makes sense. Big difference. Okay. Then that's a major shift in energy. So here's the strategic nugget. Develop your brand name and your positioning, your logo, your tagline to get credit for your higher level vision, your higher level purpose. So it's not pigeonholing. Don't pick something because someone told you need a micro niche. Okay. I'm sorry. There's so many weirdo terms out there that people use to try to entrance you into their branding net. Don't pigeonhole yourself. As a matter of fact, write this down. This is what you can do right now. I want you to ask your heart, what is even more important to me in the long run that I care about? Why does my brand even exist? Where does it go? And keep writing, asking yourself, for what purpose? For what purpose? For what purpose? Go out on the timeline. For what purpose? Go higher until you see it, you hear it, you feel it. Mort, what was it about branding that was holding you back from getting credit for what makes you so unique and outstanding in your contribution to the world?
Yeah, again, I think it was limiting myself to stress when I knew that I was up to something that included that, but that was much bigger. And you mentioned the education piece. I think that we do a terrible job of educating people to master life. I mean, I went through all of my education, including college and medical school, medical training, and I learned very little about life mastery. I learned very little about how to master my emotions, how to master my relationships, how to have self-discipline. Nobody taught that anywhere in education, and it's not being taught widely today. But those are skill sets. If you're going to be happy in life, you're going to master life, and you're going to, live a life that's relatively low in stress, you've got to be able to master those different domains of life that we all struggle with. And there needs to be a change in the focus of education, from giving people information about esoteric things or history or English or whatever. What about just living life masterfully and happily and competently? We've got to direct more of our educational focus on imparting those skills to people. So I think it's criminal that anybody can graduate college and not understand why they get angry and not understand why they feel guilty or get anxious. And almost everybody graduates without having that foundation of understanding.
What an excellent point. And you are the one, and your voice is it. So thank you. Here's what I heard. There were a couple of things. You knew that that stress mastery is the foundation of life mastery, and that we don't educate in life mastery. And I love your words that it's a travesty that someone graduates from college without knowing how to manage stress or manage anger, or not have it define or guide their
Even
life.
understand where it's coming from, why
Or
they
over
why they are
and
feeling that way. Yeah,
that's one of your amazing uniquenesses, is that you do, and you help people understand in a way that makes them go, I never thought of it that way before. That is amazing, and opens doors of awareness for them that helps them heal and move forward. So
and it's not just they never thought of it that way; they never saw it the way it actually is happening for them.
point well made.
They didn't
And
have
that
the
is
vision to
that is
see
pure
yeah,
you. And
yeah.
that is pure you, and is so probably one of the things that make you the most unique. So for every listener, I'm going to tell another quick story. Client Frank was in the financial services industry for 27 years. Talk about a pigeonhole. How many of them are there, right? It's like, ooh. But Frank had a way powerful vision and purpose that he had for his life. It was a little bit separate from his business, but he allowed it to become part of his business. And now today, instead of what you think of as another financial services person, Frank serves as a savers wealth advocate, and created his own company called Safe Savings Options to teach and guide and educate diligent savers about what they don't know that they need to know to make sure that they get what they want in life. It is a powerful brand, and its language is very unique. And he is evolving that by doing the what's next hire. For what purpose? His business is evolving into what will be a book, and what will be his presentation and his signature speaking then, about doing business with a servant's heart. So here's the rich strategy nugget. Choose language for your brand that uniquely lifts up what makes you outstanding. And if you go out on that timeline, like we talked about, it gets higher and higher. For what purpose? Use that language and write this down. Start with the impacts you clearly see making when you thrive. And those characteristics you must become, the expertises you must get credit for to make those impacts. The language begins there, and you might amaze yourself at what evolves from that step. Morton Orman, thank you for being here with us today. In this episode of The Brand Doctor, we've lifted up the brand journey of Dr. Morton Orman, MD, a leading expert in stress and anger elimination, creator of the ultimate system for eliminating stress, has decades of clinical success helping people, authored 23 books. Now he's a speaker to audiences who care about stress mastery leading to life mastery. You got to hear Mort. Get Mort in to talk to your group. He is amazing. And he's all about winning at life and enhancing the lives of generations with life mastery education. And the founder of the Orman Life Mastery Institute. Wow, you gained insight today into naming your brand name, your tagline, your positioning, to give your brand credit and not pigeonhole it, and insight into crafting language of your brand that uniquely lifts up what makes you outstanding, that's especially congruent with your vision and your purpose in continuing to move your brand forward. You'll get contact info for our guest today in the show notes, so you can take advantage of all that his brand has to offer. And you can get more information by just emailing us at rich@richbrands.org. I want you to remember the Brand Doctor podcast is dedicated to bring you strategies and actions to take your brand to its next level. So from our heart to yours, we encourage you to subscribe to the Brand Doctor podcast and check out other episodes for strategy nuggets and actions that you can take right now. We'll speak to you again in our next episode. And remember, now is the time to define the brand you will become. Thanks for being with us.